What's up everybody, Pete the Hybrid Guy here, and in this episode today we're looking at a 2006 Toyota Prius with a multi-function display that isn't working properly. In this episode we're going to cover what's wrong with it, how to fix it, and help you save a few bucks from taking this to the dealer or shop. So let's dive in and get this car repaired. If you own a second generation Toyota Prius and this happens to you where this multi-function display is not functioning, well, good news, I have a solution for you. I already started to tear out my interior here, but what we're going to do is look at the digitizer screen that sits on top of this multi-function display and see why it doesn't work. I'm pretty certain that the digitizer itself is just gone faulty, so I ordered a new one, and what we're going to cover today in this video is taking this multi-function display out, taking it apart, replacing that digitizer, and then putting this all back together and testing it out. So let's get started. What you're going to need to do first is get your vents and some of these dash pieces out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and power my vehicle down and then take all this apart. I've got it loose already, but you'll want to start with removing your furthest most vent, which is this one. And be careful when you remove these. These little clips down here can break, or any of this housing can break. Try to pull gently out and then the whole unit will slide out. And it's true with all these other vents if you need to take them out. You only really need to remove the farthest left one and then these two here in order to gain access to that. You also have to remove this upper part of your dash, which pulls out, but you have to also disconnect the lower part of the dash in order to take the upper part of the dash out. So the way that I would attack this problem is remove this vent, break this lower portion loose, take this upper portion loose, and then you can slide everything off, disconnect your power button or your park button, take out both vents, and then at this point there's going to be a bolt here and a bolt here. They'll use a 10mm socket and they'll zip right out. Once you do that, tug straight back on the unit and it will pop right out. You have two clips on the unit up top. You may have three if you have nav. Pop these out on the bottom and the unit's out. Should take you less than 5 minutes. It might take you a little bit more if you're concerned about these vents and you struggle with them, but realistically this should come out pretty quickly. Now let's get this thing out on the bench and analyzed. If you can't see me in this shot, consider it a blessing. Just kidding. But I really need you to focus here because this is the piece that we're going to be dealing with. Now, I've had this screen out already. I've taken some of the hardware off, and I'll show you where that hardware goes. There are two screws that go here, here, and they have brackets that mount here and here. That allows it to install into the vehicle. I've already taken those out because I can get them out of the way and then remove this really quickly. What we need to do is to gain access to this digitizer screen that sits on the front of this multifunction display. So removing this hardware out of the way will allow us to take that off and then look at the digitizer. So I'm going to finish taking this off and let's take a deeper look at that screen and see if we can see a problem. When you get this housing off, make sure you can just pop that right out and set it aside. This isn't our issue, but make sure it's in a safe place. Now that we have our digitizer here, let's take a look at a good one and compare and see if we can figure out what's wrong with this one here. At first glance, you may not know anything, but this is a capacitive touchscreen, which means it uses your finger like a capacitor to tell the points on where to touch on the screen. So a lot of times, and as you can see right here, there's a lot of corrosion buildup all around this frame. I've had this off before and tried to clean around it to see if I could restore the capacitive touch, and it didn't work out for me. So this digitizer, we're getting rid of it. We're going to put a new one on. You can faintly see that there's wires that come all the way down through here, and that's how they help make the connection to where your finger touches the screen to make it so you can choose the selection, whether it's your fan speed or whatever it is. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this outer frame, which is going to require me to take these screws out here, here, there, and there. And all of this will come off and we'll have access to that screen. I've got this metal frame off, and now I need to take out the other 4 screws right here to take this metal frame off. Once this digitizer is exposed, we'll need to separate it from the screen, make sure everything's clean, put the new digitizer on, and then put this all back together. So that's what I'm going to do right now. If you have any questions about how to take this digitizer off, I'll explain it to you before I take it off. So let's get started. Okay, so we've got this off and we need to take this digitizer off. I recommend using a plastic razor blade if you can. And we're going to work right in here between the glass portion and the screen portion. Be very careful when you do this, because if you nick or gouge the screen when you take this off, it's going to show and you're always going to know what happened. So I'm going to work this screen off and then take the ribbon cable out over here. I'll prep the surface and we'll get this thing back together. Couple of things before you install your new one. Number one, I ended up using a good sharp razor blade because there's glue right here and you want to work around that glue nice and gently. Number two, I used a wedge of sorts to help kind of pry that up a little bit so my blade could work easier as I was working around. It would probably be helpful to gently heat around this display, gently, with a little heat gun before taking this off. It'd probably come off in a snap. Another thing is, be very careful where you're putting pressure, because this thing can snap and break just like this one did at any time if you put pressure in the wrong spot. So be careful when you are removing this, because this can equal cuts. What we're going to do from here now is pop this ribbon cable out, clean around, get all this goober schnobber off of here, and then we'll plug our new one in, set it back down, and reassemble this MFD. I want to get a good close shot of where the ribbon cable goes. It's right in this little spot here, and if you take a pick, you can work around the back side of it and just gently pull this brown tab outwards, and it will pop out gently. That way you can reach in and just pluck that ribbon cable out. Now, when you install the new one, you'll slide the ribbon cable in and then press that brown tab down to lock it into place. So you can just pull it out and sometimes it'll just pop out for you, but what I found is getting that pick in there and just gently working this little tab. Remember, it's going to slide outwards towards you. I worked it from one side then the other with this pick. Pop, pop, slides right out. I wanted to get a good close shot of that so you can see it right here. And that's what you're going to be working with when installing the new ribbon cable. Our new digitizer has plastic on both sides, so if your hands are dirty initially, that's okay. But remember, we're going to be removing that, so make sure you're not touching the surface. The other thing, and the reason that you want to clean this old glue off, is that there are new adhesive strips on the back side. So my plan of action is to first clean all of this off, make sure that my screen is perfectly clean, peel off my back plastic layer, all of my adhesive tabs, and then lay this down. Once I'm at that point, I can plug in my ribbon cable, get that secured, and just go for reassembly. So I'm going to speed this process up a little bit. If you need any help, definitely reach out to me. But that's the direction that I'm headed. So we've got our new screen installed. I've got it plugged in, got the car turned on. Let's see if this thing functions now. We already knew that these buttons did, but before, remember, we couldn't get any of the fan speed to kick on or anything. Let's see if it works. That's a great sign. Turns on, turns off. Low speed. Let's turn that heater down for sure. Oh man, is that ever nice. I can adjust the temperature now without having to worry about anything. I'm going to call this one perfectly done. Let's just make another quick check. Check our display, info, trip information, consumption. Wow. Everything is working and functioning on the screen like it did when it was new. This repair turned out great, and guess what? It cost me less than 60 bucks to get it done. A little bit of my time, a little bit of ingenuity. I'm going to get all of this put back together, and we'll get this session wrapped up. Well, that wraps up this repair. We now have a good working multifunction display in this Prius. I feel confident now that I can turn the fan speed up and down with no issue. I'm really happy about it. It cost me less than 60 bucks. I'll post a link in the description below of where you can get the same digitizer that I used and do this repair. I hope this was helpful. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.